Hi, it's Jamie with Jamie's Arts a la Cartes. Thank you very much for joining me. I have a fun project planned for us today. I hope this video inspires you to create something of your own. If you would, hit the like button and share the video with your friends. That helps me to grow this channel and to continue to bring you new projects. If you haven't subscribed yet, would you please consider subscribing? And if you have, thank you very much. Well, we have a lot to do, so let's get to it. Hi, it's Jamie with Jamie's Arts a la Cartes. I've got a project that we're going to work on that will actually be included in our dollhouse restoration. I found this little barn after Christmas last year. It's definitely a Christmas theme, so I'm going to work on that first. But we have some labels that we can remove. So we'll get rid of the labels. It doesn't matter if something's left behind because we can always put some paint, and we'll probably have to figure out something. Either we'll just tack it down lightly, or we'll have to figure out how to operate that light in a different way. But let's go ahead and I want to turn it into a chicken coop because I have some chickens, y'all. Alright, so what I thought is horses and chickens can be together, right? So I'm going to try to cut off the little reindeer antlers. And these I will just paint over, right? But I need to get rid of the little Rudolph nose on the ones where it pokes out. So I'm going to start there and then give it a good cleaning out, and then we'll see where we go. I'm thinking a red barn, okay? Let's see where this takes us. See if we can pop this off maybe. We'll see. Let's start with removing the antlers and see if that's going to work. I'm just going to use my little widget, and I'm going to just work my way. I could use my Dremel, but this, I have a feeling I would break it, right? So I'm just going to, it's literally cutting through this little balsa-like wood. If I had one of those little skinny pencils, it'd probably be easier, but this is what I've got. Okay, I'm not going to take it all the way because I'm going to go back up to the top now, and I'm going to try to work on this as well. And it's actually not that hard to cut. I'm just several passes over it. Alright, so I am now going back and just etching lines. When I removed this Christmas stain, it left a little bit of a rough, but I sanded it. Left a rough area, but I've sanded it. Now I'm going back and adding lines like what you would see in the grooves of wood. So it's not hard at all. Again, this is like a balsa wood. So, and I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not even trying to make sure that they all are perfectly spaced. Because old wood would not be that way, right? think we will let this just dry, get fully dry, and then we'll see where we're at and decide the next colors. I am thinking that will be white around the frames, which means I'll need to get my gesso out so I can cover up this red. And then maybe white crisscross and then dark brown back behind it. Kind of what I'm thinking. Dark brown with white stripes in there. White here. So we'll just see how all that how we think that'll look once it's dry. I did paint over these trees a good bit because it had all those little pieces going back in there. So again, I'll get my gesso out and I will paint the tree on there and then put the green on top of that. Look at there. We just did us a little barn, y'all. I am going to see if my husband has an idea how I can get that to the back, because I want to glue this to the board with the dollhouse. All right. Great progress. Did make a slopping mess here though. I gotta get cleaned up. All right, drying time. All right, our barn is all dry. So before I go and do anything, I am going to take some gesso and I'm going to go ahead and paint. Oh, I missed a red spot. I'm going to paint my frames that have red on it so that they'll accept a white paint. All right, so I'm going to do that on all the sides. And that's where I'm going to start, and then we'll let it dry completely again. You see how it absorbed. I'll end up putting more color on here, but let's go ahead and get this so that this can be drying for us. All right, we will set and let it dry, and then we'll do some touch-ups. And you can kind of see where that snow was, so I need to do something in there. But we'll just let it dry at this point. And then we'll start working on the next phase. Right, I think we need to let it dry so we don't cross-contaminate our paint. But we've got our cows, horses, we're going to call them cows. We've got our cows put in, our background. I know I messed up the white, but it was inevitable, but we've got that gesso on there, so that should help us bring it back. I went ahead and did some weathering on the roof and the walls. I think that turned out pretty good. So now we're down to the details. How about that? All right, just let it dry so we don't go mucking it up. Okay, drying time. All right, everything is all dry. I'm going to begin with the two trees, or I may do the white. Let's do the white first because it's probably going to take more than one coat. So let's do the white.
Voices. You have a nice time? It's perfect. Hey, would you like some hot chocolate? Dad. I left something on the stove.
Thank you for tonight.
Good night, Angie.
Good night, David. Okay, thank you for checking. Merry Christmas.
Still no love?
Why can't her favorite flower be a poinsettia or a rhododendron?
Alright, look at our barn. I think it turned out really well. I need to let it dry, then I'll put some varnish on it, and I am going to see if I can pop this out and put it in the back so that I can mount it to my board and turn it on and off. We'll see if that can happen, but I want that to dry before so I don't mess it up. Yeah, look at there. I put some little grass and I've got some little bales of hay I'm going to go find, and I'm going to glue them up there. Be like my grandma's barn way back when. All right, drying time. All right. Doesn't matter that it's not even and all that because it's going to be glued down to the base. How about that? Now I just got to figure out how to get the hole in there. But we will let this all dry. It dries pretty quick because that's going to be raw wood on the inside. How about that? We'll give it a good cleaning before we glue it on, before we do the varnish. All right, let's let it dry, and then we'll figure out how to make this hole. Okay, wait till you see what we did. So I didn't like the light on the bottom, so I cut it out. I took my Dremel and I went all the way around and cut it out. And I ended up with this piece that had this in it. Pop that out, right? And then I needed a hole because I want it in the back. So my husband just took a hole saw and cut that out for me. There you go. That's called vision, y'all. So this this was a gap from the beginning. So since we were out there anyways, I brought in some caulk. I'm going to go ahead and just put a tiniest little caulk right there. And maybe if I see any of these little joints, not too bad. Maybe on the other side. And here, we'll do a little caulking, and then I'll have to touch up with some paint. I'll do some sanding. There you go. Let's just, so that I can feel secure. Oh yeah, but by the time I sand it, it'll go right up in there. How about that? Voila, perfecto. Okay, let me get my sanding out. So we'll sand, and then we'll caulk after that. Where caulk stays. All right, I think we've got that back. We'll have to touch up that one little white spot, but I'm going to go ahead and add some greenery here and along the bottom here. I think just this little poop pouncy kind of thing, just to because I'm going to see if I can find some evergreen trees to put on the back side of my barn, just for, or on the front, front corners. Not sure exactly what I can find, but I think I'm going to put some greenery up here and then along that one as well. I think that'll just, I like the pop of color. Seems to look really good. So we use this and this and a tiny bit of this. 2 greens and set that green right in the yellow. I'm going to have to let it dry after this because I'm now starting to pick up some of my dust from my sanding. I should have whooshed all that away before I started painting. But I didn't. There we go. Alright, I think we will call that a good stopping point. Let everything dry so we don't mess anything else up. Then come back in and we'll be able to glue our piece in, let it dry, and then we'll glue our bale on the front, and ooh, voila, we'll be right about there. What a cute little thing that we'll be able to add to our dollhouse. Right, next video we'll be assembling and doing the outside stuff. How fun is that? Yeah, you wouldn't think that a little bit of color up there would make that big of a difference, but it does. Right, took it from just a red old barn to something pretty snazzy. All right, let's let it dry so I don't mess anything else up. All right, be back in a little bit. Alright, we're trying to get our bale of hay to look like it kind of fits. We're just about there. Okay. All right, looks good that side, that side. You're not going to be pushing down on that side, so I think we're good. Try super fast. This wood, this balsa wood, really seems to absorb it pretty quick. All right, so I am going to use these pieces here to create a little ledge. give myself something stable to work on. I am going to put it in like this. That way my switch is on that side. See if I can get my hand in here. Alright, my husband made a suggestion. He said I should build one of those things that come out and pulley up and down the bales of hay. So I've got something here. Don't think I cut it long enough. So let's make that just a little longer. And just using these little nippers, let's cut it a little longer than I think I need this time. And that, just like that. Super easy. Let's go ahead and make that go straight. And then have a rope hanging down. So what I did is some of this twine that I have, I unwound, took one piece off of it. Let's see. If we do this and this, well, how about that? All right, we're gonna let that dry, and then I need to put, I see that I missed a little bit of varnish right in here, and then I want to varnish in those areas, but let it have a chance to set up. I'm gonna go back and add some more glue, even though I took it away. Seems like this thing might need it. It should dry clear. we go. Just to give it a little bit of tensile strength. All right, while that is working, drying. All right, here's a big, my husband's like, well, did you test the light? I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even test the light. All right, it's one of those brand new ones, so you gotta pull this out. All right, here's the big test. It works, y'all. Aw, that's too stinking cute. All right, let me turn the light out so you can see it. How incredibly cute is that? Look at that. Oh, that's going to be very nice. All right, literally the last thing to do is turn that off to save our battery, but now we know what we did works. Make sure there's no bubbles over here because we don't want, once it dries, it leaves a little air pocket in there. All right, and then tweezers to get this little piece of thing here out. Needs a heart or something. There we go. There is our doohickey. Our A. Oh, I absolutely love it. All right, let's let it dry, and then the absolute last coat of varnish just in here and just right around where I added that. How cute is that? All right, should be the last drying time for this project. Got in all the nooks and crannies. And I am excited to add this to the dollhouse project. How fun is this? All right. So let's do a recap, right? Because we did a lot of stuff. Thought this was just a few minutes and done, and then it just sort of evolved. So we took a Christmas barn and turned it into a chicken coop barn. Oh, look right there, too much. And we turned the reindeer into cows, right? A little touch of white right there. How did we even do that? Probably on the inside when we were touching up that inside. It splatters everywhere. That's why I had to change my board out. But there we go. We got our light. We cut out the bottom, right? So here's our bottom piece. Cut that out with a Dremel. Drew a circle on the back of the barn. My husband used a hole saw. Put a hole in it for us. And we even tried the light, and it even works, y'all. I'm so excited. So excited. How about that? A little bit of sanding, a little bit of cutting, a little bit of Dremel, and here we have our finished product. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, like it, share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, would you please consider subscribing? And well, until next time, happy crafting. I'll bring you in, I'll get you some close-ups. Until next time, y'all. Hope you enjoyed this one. This one was a fun one.